Welcome, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason No. I am the Community Outreach Specialist for the Ord Environmental Cleanup Office. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. This is the Ord Environmental Cleanup's Community Information Public Meeting. So thank you for joining us. We'll be talking about the prescribed program, and I'm going to hand it over to our Base Realignment and Closure Environmental Coordinator, Mr. Joel Lobo.
Thank you, Jason. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here and for your interest in the Ord cleanup. As Jason mentioned, we have some information for you tonight on the Army's munitions cleanup program and prescribed burn program. In the meantime, I want to go ahead and introduce the Ord team that we have. I'll start with myself, Joelle Lobo, BRAC Environmental Coordinator. So I work for the Army in the Office of the Deputy Chief of Staff in the G9 and in the Base Realignment and Closure Branch, so the BRAC branch, and I'm located here at the Ord Field Office. The Army works closely with regulatory agencies for the Ord cleanup, and tonight we have joining us virtually from the United States Environmental Protection Agency Region 9, Nate Clancy, and from the California Department of Toxic Substances Control, Brett Leary, and Tammy Dickens. So there's not a virtual component to this public meeting, but we do have a virtual option for our regulatory agency partners who aren't able to be here with us tonight. Also from the Monterey Bay Air Resources District, Dave Frisbee, thank you for joining us. And the BRAC office works with the Army Fire Department for the prescribed burn program, and Chief of Presidio Monterey Fire is here, David. Thank you. Chief Wilcox is here, as well as Presidio Monterey Public Affairs Office. Also the Army partners with the Bureau of Land Management for land management activities at the Ord National Monument. So thank you, representatives from the BLM, for being here as well. And the Army also works extensively with the Corps of Engineers for multiple aspects of the cleanup. And tonight Kevin Seaman with the Sacramento District Corps of Engineers is here, as well as from Otman Global, who is a contractor to the Army for the munitions cleanup, Linda Temple. So myself, Linda, Kevin, and Jason will be presenting tonight. The presentation should take about 30 minutes, and then we can address any questions you have on the presentation materials. And then we have some posters and maps around the room to view after the presentation, and we can answer any questions that you have on those. This is a short list of acronyms. We will try not to use too many acronyms when we talk, as it is common for the Army to do. And don't expect to memorize this list, but just wanted to show this and let you know if you do catch us with any acronyms that are unfamiliar to you, please let us know and we can clarify. A little history of Fort Ord. So Fort Ord was a military training facility for over 70 years. And significant in American military history. The base acted as a training facility from 1917 until it closed in 1994. It encompassed about 28,000 acres, which is roughly the size of the city of San Francisco, and housed to 40,000 troops and civilian support staff. So in 1990, Ord was placed on the National Priorities List. This is also known as the Superfund list for contaminated soil and groundwater. And just 1 year later, separately, the base was recommended for closure by the BRAC Commission report. And the base closed just 3 years later in 1994. Cleanup is ongoing for contaminated groundwater, soil, and munitions. Also in 1990, Ord entered into a federal facilities agreement with regulatory agencies, including the US EPA and two California state regulatory agencies, the Department of Toxic Substances Control and the Water Quality Control Board. and these agencies have regulatory oversight of the Army's cleanup at Fort Ord. So this is a map of the former Fort Ord boundary. I'll orient you on the map. So the black line denotes the boundary of footprint of the former Fort Ord. To the west, it went all the way to the Monterey Bay, the city of Marina to the northwest, and Seaside, Del Rey, Oaks, and Monterey to the southwest. To the south and east is the Highway 68 corridor, and to the northeast, the Salinas River and the city of Salinas. Within the Fort Ord footprint, the Fort Ord National Monument is depicted here in yellow. This was designated after the base closure in 2012 by the Obama administration, and it encompasses about 14,000 acres of the former Fort Ord land, and it is to be used for habitat reserve with selected recreation. To date, about half of that acreage has been transferred out of Army ownership to the Bureau of Land Management. Munitions cleanup is ongoing in the other areas, but it is intended when the munitions cleanup is completed, those the remaining parts would also be transferred to the Bureau of Land Management. So here, within the dashed line, is the former impact area. This is where a lot of the Army's munitions training activities occurred. Munitions cleanup is ongoing in this area, and it is closed to public access and fenced. The environmental cleanup is conducted under a federal law called the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act, or CERCLA. The Army is responsible for conducting the environmental cleanup in a manner protective of human health and the environment, and as well facilitating property transfer to the community for reuse. So this is a status update for munitions cleanup. Training activities that occurred at Fort Ord left behind munitions items in those training areas. And munitions cleanup is ongoing in 2 areas. So I'll orient you on the map here. Again, the thick black line is the border of the former Fort Ord. And so here we are in the southwest corner of Fort Ord with Seaside to the west. Within the dashed line is the former impact area, what we call the impact area munitions response area. Munitions cleanup is ongoing in this area under a record of decision that was signed in 2008. And this constitutes about 6,500 acres of the former impact area. Again, this area is fenced and off limits to public access. Just to the north of the impact area munitions response area is what we call the Bureau of Land Management, Area B. This constitutes about 1,600 acres of land, and munitions cleanup is ongoing under a record of decision that was signed in 2017. So within these areas, we've broken down the areas into smaller work units that are depicted by the numbers and letters that you see in the figure. The gray units represent areas that have completed munitions cleanup, and the blue units represent areas that still require munitions cleanup. So you can see in the impact area, just 4 units remain for munitions cleanup, and within the BLM area B, just 1 unit, unit A, is remaining. This image also depicts areas that have undergone prior prescribed burning for the munitions cleanup. So areas within the red, units within the red have undergone prescribed burns. The Army is planning for a prescribed burn in Unit A in the BLM Area B for 2025. The goal of the cleanup is to support future use of the property. in these areas, designated future use is determined as habitat reserve with selected recreation. And munitions cleanup reduces the explosive safety risk and promotes safe use of the property. The cleanup remedy or method of cleanup in these areas is surface removal of munitions items with subsurface removal in selected areas such as roads, trails, and fire breaks. Okay, so why does the Army conduct prescribed burning? Well, before munitions cleanup can occur, vegetation removal is required. And at the munitions cleanup sites, the main vegetation type and habitat in the area is called Central Maritime Chaparral. And you can see in this top image here is about 6 foot tall man standing in some chaparral habitat. And as you can imagine, the density and height of this vegetation would make munitions cleanup infeasible without removal first. In the lower image, this is a post-burn view of an area where the vegetation has been thoroughly cleared and the ground is exposed for safe munitions removal. Prescribed burning is a component of the Army's record of decision for munitions cleanup and is the primary method of vegetation clearance. Prescribed burning is also included in the Army's agreement with the Fish and Wildlife Service. The Army's munitions cleanup and prescribed burning provide benefit. The completion of the munitions cleanup in the BLM Area B reduces explosive safety risks to the public and supports the safe future use of the property. The prescribed burning is the most time-efficient method of vegetation removal, in turn reducing the amount of time that the unit is closed to public access. Additionally, prescribed burning itself, as well as preparations for prescribed burning, such as cutting fuel breaks, reduces overgrown vegetation and in turn reduces risk of wildfire. Prescribed burning also promotes the health, recovery, and diversity of the rare Central Maritime Chaparral. The chaparral habitat is home to numerous threatened and endangered species and is part of the Army's agreement with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which is called our biological opinion, which is an agreement under the Endangered Species Act. The Army is required to incorporate prescribed burning wherever possible. This is because the vegetation is adapted to periodic fires that promote the health of the habitat. For habitat considerations, prescribed burning would occur within a burn season or the time frame in which the Army would burn, which is July through December. When it is not possible to plan for a safe prescribed burn, the Army would cut vegetation for munitions cleanup. However, in some units, the Army would be required to come back and conduct a prescribed burn after munitions cleanup to encourage habitat recovery. The Army takes extensive precautions and preparations to ensure that prescribed burns are conducted under appropriate weather conditions and that they're contained. Safety is a priority for the Army, and we will not burn unless conditions are right and resources are available. The Army has the following goals for the prescribed burn program. Complete the prescribed burn operation with no injuries, hold the burn within the containment lines or fuel breaks, minimize smoke impacts, clear vegetation to facilitate a safe munitions removal, and minimize damage and promote health of the habitat and threatened and endangered species. Ord has successfully conducted numerous prescribed burns in the past that have met these goals, and we expect the same for this operation. The last burn was conducted in 2017 and was executed as planned. After-action reviews from prior burns have allowed the opportunity for optimization of the burn program. Presidio of Monterey Fire Department, as I mentioned, will be the incident commander, which is the lead for the prescribed burn operation. and now I'm going to pass it to Linda and Kevin Seaman for a little more information about the technical aspects of the prescriber.
Hi, my name is Kevin Seaman. I'm with the Corps of Engineers, and like Joelle said, Lynn and I will be going over the key components of conducting the prescribed burn. This is a list of those key components, and Lynn and I will be touching on them in a little further detail as we go through. But the components include multiple containment lines or fuel breaks, like Joelle said, in order to maintain the prescribed burn within those containment lines. Burn prescription, which is weather parameters where prescribed burn could be conducted, and that there would be good fire behavior and minimization of any smoke impacts. Smoke management, same thing, as weather prescription. The goal of that is to minimize any smoke impacts on the surrounding community. Site security is just to ensure that only authorized personnel are within the prescribed burn area footprint. And operations and contingency is the actual prescribed burning that occurs. Contingency is in the extremely unlikely event that there's an escape, then Pond Fire Department would reach out to local resources in order to address that. Air monitoring, again, addressing smoke and with the intent to minimize any smoke impacts. And also community outreach and notification, which is part of what we're doing here today to make folks aware of the Fort Ord Prescribed Burn Program.
My name's Linda Temple. I work for Otna Global, as Ms. Lobo introduced me earlier. And I'm working with the Army to manage and make sure that this burn goes off without a hitch. The slide here shows the area to be burned. So this is the area here in pink. We've shaded it in pink for reference. Let me just point up here. Up here is the East Garrison housing. This is Inner Garrison Road. CSUMB is up in this area. The BLM Work Center is down here. So the burn unit is surrounded by containment lines or fuel breaks. So all of these colored lines that surround it, even this little thin green inside, those are called fuel breaks or containment lines. And these are areas that are cut to contain the fire in the unlikely event that the fire would leave the burn unit. These areas are they're vegetated, so they have to be cut. We use mechanical equipment. The Army also uses manual equipment in there, so if we have trees, we need to limb those up and cut under them. These follow, for the most part, these follow roads. You can see the road names there. I won't try to read them without my glasses. And this cutting begins very soon, in early June of this year. The work will be conducted Monday through Thursday, and during that time, say we're working in this area here, that area would be closed off to traffic and the trails would be closed around it, and then at the end of the day, they would be opened again. And so, since we're working Monday through Thursday, whatever areas we're working in will be closed during the day, opened in the evening, and then opened Friday through Sunday. Important to note that commuter traffic will not be affected by this, and so we know that there's commuter traffic that goes along Inner Garrison Road and down 8, and then over here around East Garrison. These roads will not be closed at all during this operation.
As I mentioned on one of the previous slides, there is a prescribed burn prescription, which is essentially weather parameters under which the Army potentially could burn. The Army has worked closely with the Naval Postgraduate School and also the Monterey Bay Air Resources District in order to outline a very restricted set of weather parameters in order to ensure that during a prescribed burn that fire behavior is optimized, good fire behavior is optimized, and there would be minimal smoke impacts to the surrounding community. This particular display here is a forecast website, and the website is actually at the bottom of the page here. It's available to the public on fordordcleanup.com. I'll explain it here in a minute, but if anybody wanted to take a look at that, they can. And what this does is the meteorologist, as I talked about, specifically the meteorologist who works for Naval Postgraduate School, he's developed this model-derived forecast, and you can see that it's very simple: red, yellow, and green. On green days, and again, this is forecast out, so it may be up to 7 weeks out. On green days, it looks like weather conditions are going to be conducive for conducting a prescribed burn. Yellow, at least when this model was run, weather conditions aren't optimum. That could change as day 6 moves into day 5 and day 4. And day 1, as red, weather conditions are not good for doing a prescribed burn, and a prescribed burn would not happen. The only time a prescribed burn would happen using this particular forecast is on a burn day, and not out day 3, day 4, day 5. It would be looking at day 2 and even day 1. That's one piece of the puzzle. Mobilization just means moving in additional equipment. As Joelle mentioned, Tom Fire, who is on site, is the incident command, but there's also contract resources that are required. That's aerial operations, helicopters for ignition and suppression, and also ground personnel and contract fire engines, as well as other water supplies. So that's two pieces of the puzzle: is these optimal weather conditions that we're looking at here, resource availability, that contract equipment, optimal fuel moisture. If it's too dry, the Army wouldn't burn because of the potential for an escape. If it's too wet, the Army wouldn't burn due to the potential for smoke impacts to the surrounding community. And then the final piece of the puzzle that goes into that is any significant local events that are planned for that time period. That's all taken into account in the thought process as far as making a decision to mobilize and actually conduct a prescribed burn. It's important to note that the Army is committed to conducting the prescribed burn in a safe manner, and all these requirements would have to be met before the Army would make a decision to move forward with conducting the prescribed burn.
Another thing that's considered is if there's any other fires going on.
Sure. Yeah, thanks.
So, as you can see, there was a little graphic there showing the direction that we want the smoke to go. When we conduct the prescribed burn under the burn prescription, this results in this ideal fire and smoke behavior. So, when the burn is conducted as planned, the smoke moves up and away from the communities. And so as it's moving up and away, it's dispersing up in the upper atmosphere. And so that's the ideal situation. It's moving away from the airshed of the community. And when I say up and away, I mean towards the ocean, out west. I mentioned the fuel breaks or the fire breaks, containment lines. These are some here. You can see them from a previous burn. They're pretty wide. They vary though.
This is the actual these photos show actual operations during the prescribed burn. As we mentioned, the Presidio Monterey Fire Department does manage the prescribed burn operations from those containment, or the roads and near those containment lines that Linda showed a picture of. Top left is aerial ignition, which is the primary method for conducting a prescribed burn, especially on a unit this size. The picture just to the right of that is a close-up, and it's called a helitorch. That's what's hanging below the helicopter on the left-hand side. That's just to zoom in. In addition to doing aerial ignition, there's also ground ignition. And bottom left, you can see a firefighter there doing some ground ignition. Then, after completion of the ignition phase, the other 3 pictures are showing the pieces of the suppression phase, which is containing and putting the fire out once those active prescribed burn operations are complete. In general, in the past, the ignition operations have taken 2 to 3 hours. It moves pretty quick, and then the suppression operations with not only active suppression operations, but patrols after the fact to make sure that there's no hot spots. They'll generally run another day or 2. Again, I just want to reiterate that this is only one piece of the puzzle in order for the Army to conduct a prescribed burn. When the decision is made, if equipment is not available and not readily available in this given area, then the Army would not conduct the prescribed burn. And again, going back to the weather parameters, like when Linda said, if there's additional wildfires that are going on, which also pulls away resources that would be used for the prescribed burn operations, then there would be no prescribed burning done unless all those parameters line up the way they need to conduct the operations.
Another thing I wanted to point out is these water containers here. We have to truck in water for the suppression operation, and that's potable water that comes in from Marina Coast. And there was another thing about this is that on that burn prescription, as they're watching the forecast, they'll decide maybe 2 days before the burn is supposed to happen to mobilize. And then, so it all moves very quickly. The mobilization decision happens, and then mobilization occurs the day before the burn. And then there's all of those resources and personnel and equipment arrive, they get safety training, and then the next morning, there's a very early, about 5 a.m. meeting to make sure that everything is still optimal. So there's a lot of steps in this process to make sure that the optimal conditions and resources are there. All right, air monitoring. So because there's smoke, we have air monitoring sensors in the area. So the Army will be conducting air monitoring during the prescribed burns. This includes placement of air monitoring sensors both inside the former Fort Ord and surrounding. And so we have this printed bigger, you can look at it later, but there's green circles. Those are the Monterey, the Embard air sensor locations, and there's several of them, and here, and then out in Salinas and up in Marina. The triangles are pre-selected locations where the Army will place an air monitoring sensor. And then I think there's 6 of those. There's squares, there's one there, a couple down here, and there's 6 of those, and the Army will select one of those as it's a candidate location, and so there'll be 7 Army locations plus all of the MR locations in that Monterey Bay Air Resources District. So air monitoring technicians will be monitoring the data as it's coming in. The data from the Embard sensors is on their website. They have a website which we included at the bottom, which is the current air quality forecast. The Army data will be presented in an after-action report, but we're also working to find a solution for making that data near live. It can't be real time, but as real time as we can, so we're working on a solution for that. And again, at the bottom of the slide, we have the website for Embard. So just to go back to that the smoke column, when we're following the burn prescription, we get that good column of smoke moving up and out. So we don't expect there to be smoke impacts during the burn. But after the burn is suppressed and, put out with water, you can have some smoldering in the area. So that could occur overnight. It could happen for 1 or 2 days. And so, the Army, the fire department will be patrolling the area and, checking to make sure the fire is fully extinguished. Now, for those that have health concerns, the Air Now website provides information, suggestions on what to do during a burn to avoid smoke impacts. So you should listen for any public advisories or alerts. If there is smoke in your area, close your windows, especially overnight. Avoid any strenuous work outdoors. And if you have any pre-existing conditions, just check with your healthcare provider prior to the burn. I wanted to point out that everything we're talking about here is based on or is from a prescribed burn plan. There's several plans that have to be prepared before this type of work can be done. This is the BLM Area B Unit A prescribed burn plan addendum. So there was a plan before, and we updated it to bring it up to date for this specific burn. My last slide is about site security. So the burn unit is, as Joelle Lobo described, this area is on BLM property in the Ord National Monument. The area is not fenced currently. There's public access into this area on the designated roads and trails. During the prescribed operations, the Army will work with the Presidio Monterey Police Department and other law enforcement agencies, and they will close off this area. So the entire area will be off limits to the public for the burn day, and the roads, these roads in red will be closed, and there will be security patrol or guards at certain points around the area. There will also be roving patrols. The roads in yellow will not be closed for the burn, but only in case of an emergency. So the public access will be restricted until the Presidio Monterey Fire Department incident commander releases the area to the public. And this could be a couple of days after the burn. We're burning the area to get access to the ground so we can clean up munitions. And so once it's burned, the ground will be exposed. And so the next step after that is to put up a fence. We put up a fence around the perimeter of the unit here. And so then, at that point, there'll be some additional vegetation cutting, just because if you look at some of the pictures from previous burns, some of the vegetation is just like a stick. You have to cut that down so it doesn't hurt anybody. And then UXO munitions cleanup personnel go out and clear the area. And as they're doing that, what will happen is, say we're working up in this area here, there may be roads and trail closures in this area, and then when they're working over here, there will be closures in that area. So just to be aware that the closures in that area are not just for the burn, but also following for the munitions cleanup.
All right, thank you. So now I'll be discussing the outreach for the prescribed burn program. There will be a total of 4 notifications made to the community. We heard Kevin and the Temple there discuss a little bit of the phases here. So you will definitely get a notification, the community will get a notification letting them know that the Army will be conducting a prescribed burn during the burn season. We plan to do a big announcement in mid-June. From there, we will also give notification when we hit that mobilization phase. So that will say that a prescribed burn is imminent and could occur at any time. From there, after that, we'll have a notification during ignition, so letting people know that the prescribed burn has been ignited. And from there, it will be, the last notification will be when the prescribed burn has been completed. Note that mobilization, ignition, and completion cannot be scheduled ahead of time. It can't be scheduled in advance because of all the different conditions that Kevin and Linda described. So we don't have a date for that, but we can schedule for when we will do our first major announcement, which will be in mid-June. We'll have various formats on how we will notify the community. We will do press releases, we will send emails, letters, we'll update our website, we'll also update our information line. This page shows some notification resources to the community. Our big one is the direct notification program. We will invite all community members to sign up for that. So what this will do is community members that have signed up for this program, they will receive a call, they can receive a text, or they can receive an email, or all three, during the mobilization, ignition, and completion phase. So I would invite everybody to sign up for that. You can do that. We have forms in the back if you want to sign up today. You also can fill it out online. There's a QR code there, or you can visit our website, fortordcleanup.com. There is an online form there. You must pre-register for every prescribed burn. So if you signed up for the 2017 burn, you will have to sign up again. Another thing to note for the direct notification program is that if you wanted to receive text updates, there is an additional step, so please read the directions carefully. It's that to opt in, to say that we're going to allow, you're going to allow the Army to text you. So it's to text the word alert to 22300. It's in the directions, so please take a look. If you forget that part, you will get notified eventually to do that part. Otherwise, we cannot give you that text message. I did say we will update our website and information line with prescribed burn updates. So those are the website. The website is fortordcleanup.com. We do have the information line right there, 1-800-852-9699. That is staffed Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. But please note that on holidays and weekends, if we were to have a prescribed burn, that information line will be staffed, so it will be available. And also outreach at fortordcleanup.com. You could send an email there if you have any questions or inquiries about the prescribed burn at any point. Again, as Kevin and Linda mentioned, we do work with MBARD, Monterey Bay Air Resources District, and I do have their website available there for local air quality information, so highly recommend viewing that. So I explained that we have our fortordcleanup.com website. I wanted to kind of help everybody navigate to some of these great resources. We have a lot of great resources on our website, but one of the big ones is our fact sheets. We have some printed out back in the front. I invite you to take one. How to find those fact sheets online, you can go to the community tab and there's the fact sheet section. So check out all those resources on our website. It has frequently asked questions and other types of information, including the whole 4 cleanup program as well, not just the prescribed burn. I talked about prescribed burn website will be updated, so we do have a webpage dedicated to prescribed burns. You can find it under cleanup programs under prescribed burns. Lastly, we do have extensive community outreach other than focusing on the prescribed burn program. I did want to point, this is just a simple list of all of the things that we do. I did want to point out that in July we will be having our open house with bus tours. That'll take place July 26th, so that's a great outlet for community members to come visit us, ask questions, and go on a bus tour around the Fort Ord, former Fort Ord. Another thing I wanted to point out was the website does have a great online administrator record and document library. All of our reports, such as the burn plan, is uploaded on there, and the community can view them. Everything is uploaded, including comments from our community members will be uploaded on there when we receive them, when we do receive a signed hard copy via U.S. Postal Mail. So that is our outreach in a nutshell. That is the prescribed burn program. These are, again, the website as well as the information line, and we will open it up to questions. No questions?
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to hear about this and for all the people who came from far away to explain to us what's going on. I live here in the arena, but I bike quite often in the areas that are discussed. I, of course, fully understand the logic behind why burns are needed for many reasons that we just talked about here. But the one thing that kind of left a question mark in my mind was, it's not only about the start of the burn and the finish of the burn. There's a fence that off, and then there's an ordinance that's going to be moved. That's weeks, months of work. How long will it be until it looks again like it looks now?
The munitions cleanup aspect, it will depend on how many work crews are going at one time, so I don't have a specific number for you, but it will be on the order of months, not years. After munitions cleanup occurs, there's some additional work that happens and potentially subsurface clearance. And then once that is completed, it would be reopened for public use. Getting back to its current state with grown vegetation would take a number of years later, but yeah.
I'll keep you posted.
Okay, yes. Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate your attendance and your interest in Florida. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We'll be here till about 7:30 if you wanted to ask any questions one-on-one, view the maps. So feel free to do that. Thank you.